Right, morning YouTube. So 2 weeks ago, give or take, I did a review on the older style Austrian Army rucksack and haversack system. Basically, I bought it because it was going to be the basis of a project idea that's been floating around in a couple of notebooks in my head for a good few years, and I've just finally got around to doing it. So basically, under the scrim net is the end result, basically, and yeah, just shows you what you can do with a bit of imagination and a bit of patience and some basic skills with a sewing machine with one of these, instead of going out and spending a lot of money on, if you think about it, basically a glorified day sack. So yeah, I've just upgraded it, basically. So yeah, anyway, no drum roll. So basically that is the finished project. So basically the component parts are all of the Austrian Army rucksack minus the harness system, because that was just horrendous. And then there is some karrimor and some large Alice pack parts on that, because my Alice pack was unintentionally teabagged by embers from a fire when I lent it to a mate. So yeah, so basically I just salvaged all of the useful parts off the large Alice, and then have basically Frankenstein hybrided them onto the Austrian and ended up with this. So basically we're looking at the two rear bottom side pockets in the middle of the back off the Alice ammunitions in that triple set at the top on the large, and then the large Alice lid, but only half of it, basically, which is this bit here with that on it. Yeah, and then basically the rest of it is a karrimor top lid, and then karrimor shoulder straps on the other side, and then the rest of it is me kind of just filling in gaps. So basically what we're looking at is I removed all of the bottom pockets on the large Alice, and the original intention was to see if they would go from side to side. Unfortunately they didn't, they were a bit too big, so I removed the middle one, that was the one without the tunnel, and then I sewed the two tunnel ones together, and they fitted nicely inside the original webbing straps that run up this pack for the metal fittings to attach on the original video, and they have been sewn in, so I've still got the tunnel behind those. So there's that. And then another thing that was niggling me was there was a gap between here and the original side pocket, and I didn't want to put any molly on it, and I didn't want to sew any smaller pouches on it, because I just thought no. So what I used was the original back pocket, which I'd removed to sew these two on, and then I cut that down and sewed it to fit here. So you can see the material there. Yeah, so basically it's narrower at the bottom and then it opens up, so I've just sewn it to fit in. Gives you a bit of a pocket there, and then on the other side you'll see what I've done with it. So on the other side there I've got a loop link line in it. That's the original fitting point for the metal one of these buckles, which I've removed, and then I've attached the lid straps onto that, and then using the top half of the Alice lid, I've just basically sewn on some Velcro onto the top of the Austrian, and then sewn this lid, which I'd already made for my large Alice, directly onto the top of the Austrian lid. So yeah, then that way I didn't want to put a mesh pocket underneath, because I thought I don't need 3 lid pockets, they'll just be overkill. So I've got the admin pocket here off the Alice, on the back or the front, depending on where you're looking at it. And then the karrimor lid pocket is the zipped one here. So all I've done there is in the corner here, I've just sewn in a little keeper, and then there is a mesh admin pocket sewn in that I can just take out, and that can be permanently attached to the rucksack so you don't lose it. So if you're doing like a night job or something like that, doesn't fall on the floor and you lose it kind of thing. It just keeps it permanently attached to the rucksack. Now then, other things I did was I had the 3 pockets set up off the large Alice, one for the ammunitions, yeah. And I thought, do I sew that onto the rucksack? And I thought about it, and then I thought no, because it'll just be too much of a straightforward copy. So did a little bit of thinking, and I had an idea that I wanted to make a pocket that went along the top underneath the lid, just for extra storage. I'd already got this piece of mesh luckily made for something else that I'd forgotten all about, but that fitted nicely underneath the straps. But we're still a bit short from side pocket to side pocket. So luckily, ammunition on the end, sewn directly onto the end of the mesh there, and then repeated on the other side, filled that gap in nicely. And I thought, oh, that was more luck than judgment. So what I did was I basically sewed the 3rd ammunition into the middle of the mesh pocket. So I basically used them all. And then when I opened the rucksack up, I now have this mesh pocket that runs underneath the eyelets. Yeah, so it's a foot long by about 8 or 9 inches high. And I'm basically not wasting any kind of losing out with any real estate at the top here of these 2 pockets. So basically it's just like an extra utility pocket, and I've still got the ammunition pouches on the outside, or I can stick whatever I want into these. And then there's the original paracord that I just sewed on as an original fix, and then there's the haul strap with that to just pull it forward. Now what I've done is, when you tighten the rucksack up and pull it, it makes this pouch a bit gappy. So I've basically sewn a nylon loop here, which I can now run the haul strap through that. I'll show you the idea in principle. So basically you run your strap through that, and then you pull it, and then that pulls all of that up and just closes it down. And then when you lock the lid down, the straps come there, and that just seals it down nicely, so it actually works quite well. So there's that. And then what I've done is I've remade the original sit mat. Now the German Army folding mat is designed as part of their sleep system, and it's very thin when it's open. So what I've done is, in here I have used an old British Army roll mat. This is something we used to do back in the day. We used to cut these down and we'd roll them up, we'd make them shorter. So my one is actually from the back of my head to just past my knees, and luckily it fits nicely inside the Austrian pack. So that's a 40 litre dry bag with everything in it that I need for whatever. And then the roll mat that I'm going to use goes around that, so that's extra protection of any kit you've got inside there. And then with the added bonus of the sit mat in the rear pocket on the back of the Austrian, that gives me extra padding on the back. So what we'll do is I'll show you what I've done with that sit mat kind of affair and how that works. So just pause, bear with me. So basically that is a folded up Dutch Army roll mat that I've cut to fit into the back pocket on the Austrian rucksack. So I can either use it singly like that, or if I wish, I can open it up like that. And then I've just covered it in ripstop parachute nylon so it makes it easier to slide in and out of the pocket. Right then, so I'll close it up and then spin it around and show you what I've done instead of their shoulder harness. So yeah, bear with me again. So right, as you can see with the lid down, that now closes off that rear mesh pocket, so nothing's coming out. So yeah, I just thought I'd show you that. And then basically what I'm going to do is I will, using the very nice grab handle that this rucksack's actually got built in, which is a really good feature. There you go. That's basically what I've done to the back. So I've got the padded mat is in the radio pocket there. So that's the padding on your back. So basically that's now like an inch worth of roll mat against your back. And then with the extra padding from the other roll mat, more than enough. There's no need to mount this on a frame for whatsoever. The whole idea of me doing it this way is so I can roll it up, make it a lot smaller, and then top flap it, which is something the British Army used to do. We like to do with our Bergens back in the day. So yeah, basically I've just run with that. So what I've done here is, this is an old karrimor rucksack frame. I've just cut this extra bit down, sewn in a bit of extra foam mat in there, and then just stitched in using Barber heavy duty wax thread, which is bomb proof. And then what I've done is I've sewn it into the internal webbing strap that the Austrians have sewn in for their rivets when they've mounted the original. There's one there. There's a rivet there, and then there is a rivet under here. If I open it up, I might be able to show you in it. You might be able to see it. Can you get to that? There's another rivet in under there. So that holds that metal in place, and then all I've done is I've used the karrimor straps to go through that. Yeah, and then down in the bottom I've opened it up with a seam stripper, and these are metal welded D-rings. I've just used those for an anchor point. So basically I've just put a loop on that end to pull it down tight, and then I put a loop on there, and I've also added a small waist strap. Basically it's 40mm, and then when I need it I can use it, and then when it's not in use I've just tied it off using 2 Ranger bands in a tube basically, and then they just sit to the side. And then basically that, gentlemen, is that. Nice and simple. The only thing I've got to do to it now is add a sternum strap to it, and that is basically my take on a revamped and very pimped Austrian hybrid Alice karrimor rucksack, which is now about a 55-litre pack. So basically, with a little bit of thinking, a little bit of planning, that is basically what you can do with the old Austrian. So it's basically, you know, it's now a more usable kind of pack for whatever you wish. So anyway, enough of me waffling, and I need a coffee. So me leaving that there for you lot to just peruse and say, not a bad idea. Anyway, Mitch out.